Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I'm going to tell you why cryptocurrencies are never going to go away, unless the internet goes away. And then I'll be like, okay, yeah, got me. But I'll tell you why cryptocurrencies are never going to go away. And it's a reason that, yeah, I've talked about a bit. But, you know, most of the time when I'm talking about why I believe cryptocurrencies are here to stay, because this is where my aha moment came from, was when in my earliest days of crypto in November of 2017, I recognized that there were business models that can exist that are impossible unless you have a decentralized cryptocurrency with an open market price that's also technologically sufficient. And then once that hit me, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff's never going away. And I've told that story before. And that's when I realized the usefulness of XRP as a bridge currency. And then I just, of course, kept learning from there. It's now been over 4.5 years I've been in crypto. But there's another reason that it's not going to go away. And even in my earliest of days, I thought this sounds plausible. But the more I thought about it and the more I did my own research, the more I came to realize, no, this one's legitimate too. And it's actually the reason that people get into Bitcoin in the first place. And it has to do with the question, a broader question of like, what is money? And I want to share with you some thoughts on that because I barely ever talk about this, but it's interesting always, and it's useful to understand this because people are worried. And fine, look, most cryptos I think are going to go to zero because they're useless, but some will survive. And so if you're worried about whether or not it makes sense to even be in the asset class, well, I would think this would make you feel a little bit better. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold, and I admit I could be wrong. But I think it's fun to talk about this stuff. I also want to share with you perspective from some of the top analysts out there in the world of crypto in terms of directionally where we're going, because in terms of an absolute bottom for XRP and broader crypto markets, we might have seen it already. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby, and just for fun, damn it. If you don't like it, well, you can just get out. Take a look at this headline. I'm not going to read the article. It's just kind of funny just to illustrate how quick crypto moves. This is an article from today, and it comes from crypto media outlet You Today, titled Cardano Spikes 8%, Surpassing XRP. So I saw that, it's like, oh, bummer. Well, it keeps going back and forth. But then I just went to live coin watch and I was like, oh, that's no longer true. XRP's back in number 7. So by the time you're watching this, Cardano will be back in number 7. It's just the way that things go. Things move very quickly. And then there was this from a chart analyst, Credible Crypto. He shared something from another analyst called The Real Plan C. And The Real Plan C wrote, if people are not careful, their go all in at $13,000 to $15,000 strategy could easily become a FOMO in at $30,000 plus strategy. Hashtag Bitcoin. And Credible Crypto, in response to that, simply wrote, seen it before, we'll see it again, 100. So he's just talking about this idea of people expecting Bitcoin to go lower, so they've sold their Bitcoin. People do this with XRP too. They sell it. It's probably going to go lower, and I just can't handle the pain if it goes lower and I don't sell it. But then it goes in the other direction, and then good luck catching back up. And then you've really eaten it. You can quickly screw yourself so horribly that whatever you would have otherwise profited in the market cycle is halved. That's not exactly ideal, which is why for me the best strategy has always been to just sit around doing nothing after purchasing, which is what I do every day. It's pretty awesome, and it's not stressful. And then there's this from chart analyst Leb Crypto, who just an hour ago wrote, should $22,000 hold? Bitcoin's next target is $28,000 this week. If price loses and starts closing below $22,000, then lower targets are $20,600 and $18,800 for Bitcoin. Price action bias leans more to the upside than to the downside at the moment. Tonight's weekly close will be important. So I'll just pause to note what I continue to find consistently, especially in recent days, is this expectation that things are going to move to the upside. At least that's what's more probable. It's never guarantees. When it comes to technical analysis, it's about probabilities. But probabilities, again, to be clear, are not certainties, and they never will be. So even what's probable to occur, even if it's perfectly reasonable analysis, if you have a bunch of analysis over a span of years, even if you're right that so-and-so is probable, eventually the improbable happens, and then price goes down even if you expect it to go up. Take a look at this headline from the Daily Huddle. Crypto analyst predicts unexpected Bitcoin rally that fakes out bears. Here's his target. Closely followed crypto analyst Nicholas Merton says that market conditions have reached a point that an unexpected relief bounce that liquidates Bitcoin bears is becoming more likely. In a new market update, the host of Data Dash tells his 515,000 YouTube subscribers that just like in July of 2021, Bitcoin could pull off a bounce that catches most bears off guard. He says that Bitcoin's major moving averages are pointing towards a relief rally to about the $30,000 range. So let's pause again. That's close to what Lub Crypto is saying to expect. He said 28,000, fine, whatever, splitting hairs here. The point is, notable move to the upside. You can imagine what that would mean for XRP too. So what if that happens, and then fine, maybe it goes a little bit lower, but what if the bottom's already in? And fine, you could say, okay, but what if it's not? Oh, zing, you got me. Well, think about the possibility here. Say Bitcoin actually goes down to 10,000, or XRP goes down to 15, 16, 17 cents, which, I don't know that that's particularly probable, but let's say that disaster type scenario happens. Okay, well, at some point, markets find bottoms. So even from here, if you're just buying here, what's the potential upside when the market goes into euphoria mode? Up 1,000%, Well, even if it goes down 50% from here, then who the hell cares? It functionally doesn't matter. And so here's a quote from Nicholas Burton. He says, "We rallied all the way from $29,000 to $53,000 in July 2021. To put that into perspective, in a matter of just a few weeks, or simply put, less than months, we saw an 80% move in Bitcoin's price. Am I calling for that exactly? No. What I am calling for is for us to come up and to retest this previous consolidative range, $30,000. There are no significant points of resistance here, and the moving averages are coming straight down into this point where it gives us a perfect setup for Bitcoin to come up and retest this range here and see if it can interact with these moving averages. A lot of people won't think it can happen. You'd be surprised how relief rallies can get to an exacerbated level, especially in a market where there are excessive amounts of derivatives. And so again, I just thought I'd highlight it because this is what I keep seeing most analysts seem to think is most probable. Doesn't mean it's, like I said, doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it's a certainty. But which way you want to hedge? Because I'm not going to take a risk and sell crypto hoping to buy it lower. No, I buy and then I just hold. That's my deal. And if I never sell some because some of it goes to zero, fine. I think I'm going to have a number of winning positions that are just worth astronomically more than what they are even now. And I'm still up, certainly. I mean, I've been in crypto for 4.5 years. I better be, even despite the pullback. But it doesn't mean it couldn't go lower. Like, I've said this before, too. I mean, even if XRP goes below my average buying price, which is possible, I will not be scared. I will not be crying. I just don't think that that's an indicator of whether or not XRP hits a new all-time high in the future. It's just an indication of humans being emotional humans in the short term. I just won't care. So now onto the next topic, and this is fun. And I haven't talked about this enough probably on the channel. And so this is what inspired me to maybe speak about it a little bit more, at least in this video. This is a TXMC on Twitter, and he was formerly with Glassnode, of which, of course, you may be aware, does on-chain analytics. I'm a fan of Glassnode. And this is an incredibly insightful individual. I've highlighted his stuff quite a bit over the last, in particular, I don't know, half a year or so when I came across him. And he wrote the following. He says, "In a time of disruption, debasement, and increasing government control, the ability to protect and transport wealth indefinitely without cost or censorship is a significantly undervalued trait. I believe that will change and that Bitcoin will fill an important role in the years ahead." So just to be clear, what he's basically saying here is that the ability to use money or something that's like money, so maybe, he is talking about Bitcoin, you're fine, even though Bitcoin, it's got its problems. It's an energy hog, it's slow, fees are really high. Maybe Lightning Network maybe fixes that one day. I don't know. And then that seems like a centralized solution, but is what it is. Either way, there's going to be a place in the world for something that acts like money, a peer-to-peer cash system, which is what Bitcoin was supposed to be. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper said. It's a peer-to-peer cash system. There's going to be something that fills that role as it increasingly becomes important. And I could not feel more confident of that. I'm more certain. So, and that's why I was saying, at the beginning part of this video, the reason that I recognize first, for sure, that crypto will never go away, even if I'm wrong about XRP, for some reason that's unknown to me at this point, there are still business models that cannot exist unless you have a decentralized cryptocurrency with an open market price that's technologically sufficient. Because trust is a factor in business models. And if you're talking about something that's valued as money by people the world over, the implications of that, especially in the case of XRP being positioned as a bridge currency, it couldn't be more obvious, right? But as far as something being used as money, fine. Look, I honestly don't have an interest in 2022 using any cryptocurrency in place of money. There are tax implications. What I'm doing right now with my centralized systems using a credit card, God forbid I have to use paper money or the bane of my existence, metallic currency, physical coins. Oh my God, I hate them. I hate metal coins so much. Even if I can use that, it does work, right? And so throwing something new into the mix, what problem is it solving for me? But as certain fiat currencies the world over continue to become debased and the trust system around them continues to fade, well, what do you think's going to happen? Take a look at this headline. I'm going to go through a small part of the story, but I want to tell you something else first. But here's the headline from AP News, and this is from July 12th this year. China bank customers to get deposits back after protests. And you'll see as I go through this article that there are banks that literally would not allow their customers to take the money. There are serious financial problems. Now, talk about eroding trust within the financial system. And so then you should ask yourself, okay, so what is money? Well, money, then this is typically what people say. It's in particular in the world of crypto, and it is true. They say, money is a medium of exchange. It's a store of value, and it's a unit of account, right? And so, medium of exchange, it just means that we can transfer it for goods and services among one another, right? And then store of value just means that you could hold it and expect to use it in the future, have a reasonable expectation it'll be worth at least the same, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe worth more in the future. And then in terms of unit of account, we're talking about what is money denominated? Like what are products denominated? Like say you're going to go buy something on your favorite website, whatever that is. Maybe it's Amazon because everybody uses Amazon, right? Well, when you buy something there, like what's it denominated in? Well, in the United States, typically you're going to see the default as the dollar, right? But if you're in a different part of the world and you're on whatever website, you're going to see that the unit of account is something different. If you're in Japan, you're going to see a different currency than if you're in the United States, right? And so all these things are true, and these are attributes of money, which is why people like to tear down Bitcoin, or you could say XRP as money because things aren't denominated in it, even though you can easily convert in and out in a world that's sufficiently liquid and tokenized. But even setting that aside, what is money first? I always argue that the rest of that doesn't matter unless you have trust. So my answer first is that money is a trust system, and then it's the rest of the things that I just said. Money is a trust system first, because if the people using it don't have trust, everything else falls apart anyway. And so here's what we know about humans. We know that humans can develop these trust systems, even surrounding centralized entities such as governments, which issue fiat currencies. We know that this is true. It's demonstrated consistently. And of course, fiat currencies, they eventually fall apart. I think the average lifespan of the typical fiat currency is, 28 years? It's something stupid low. And I'm not kidding you. Like, Google it. It's ridiculously low. The fact that dollars lasted this long is unusual. All right, but, talk about, United States superpower, okay. World reserve currency, it's going to be harder to knock it down, but it's still getting debased. And so if you continue to debase it, at some unknown point in the future, it's going to lose its status as world reserve currency and crumble and fall apart, go to zero. That's eventually what happens if you debase currencies. History has shown this time and time again, right? So, but it's a trust system. Right now it's working. And so you'll have naysayers. They're like, well, what about Bitcoin? You're going to use that as money? So setting aside, let's pretend that there weren't technological difficulties and all the stuff I cited a few minutes ago. So let's say it technologically was sufficient for the purposes of a peer-to-peer cash system as money, right? Well, then the detractors will say, okay, but it's not backed by anything. How are people it's just a thing that's going to go up and then it's going to go to zero eventually. It's a Ponzi and it falls apart. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, holy freaking hell, what's the dollar backed by? And the bogus people out there, they'll say, oh, it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States federal government. I'm like, shut up. Shut the hell. That's a fancy way of saying it's backed by exactly nothing. Don't you give me that line of crap. It's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. Yeah, except for when the trust is gone and then it falls apart and goes to zero. And that's what happens historically. We've seen this, right? So it's backed by nothing. What's gold backed by? Gold's backed by nothing. So there's another trust system right there. And you're telling me that humans can have those trust systems, even though historically fiat currencies fall apart, they still work for some time, but it can't ever work for a cryptocurrency, which doesn't require trust in a central authority? Are you freaking kidding me? It couldn't be more obvious that crypto is here to stay even for that use case. So it's a question of which cryptocurrency or cryptocurrencies will be used in place of fiat as a peer-to-peer cash system. And why couldn't XRP be one? I mean, it's been around from the beginning. It's got, it's among the concept of first mover's advantage. It's not the first cryptocurrency, but it's among the first. And it's got real world adoption, and it is technologically sufficient. Well, why couldn't that work? I mean, it could. It could. In some places, I don't like. Why not? I'm not predicting that it will or won't. I don't know. I'm just saying that something's going to come along and fill that role as it becomes increasingly necessary. It couldn't be more obvious. There's so many reasons crypto isn't going away, and you're at the beginning of all this, and there's so many people right now worried about price going down, and they're so fearful, but it just doesn't make any damn sense so far as I'm concerned. So let me share with you part of this article from AP News. Again, it's from July 12th, titled, China Bank Customers to Get Deposits Back After Protests. Financial regulators in central China's Henan and Anhui provinces, I'm sure I butchered that, have promised to give some bank customers some of their deposits back after a protest over their frozen accounts Sunday turned violent. Pause. And by the way, I heard in separate, I don't know if this is true, but I read in other places that there were like tanks that rolled up to defend the banks as protests broke out. This is insane. So you're telling me that there's not a better way to do this. As things evolve and crypto increasingly becomes adopted, like, you don't think that for some sect of the population, they're going to find the idea of having money that can't be confiscated and held back? No one's going to value that. And so it's a natural. That's why when people look at Bitcoin and they say, "Well, it can't be this or that. You don't even get dividends from it." Doesn't this? I'm like, shut up. You have the wrong valuation model. That is not the valuation model. It's like money, but it has attributes that you can't have with something that is centralized, like the United States dollar. People are valuing the concept of this right now, even though crypto isn't broadly used in place of money. Let adoption take place over a span of decades and come back in like 30 years. Talk to me. Let's see what it looks like then. But don't you dare tell me, because it's not. Your comments along those lines will age like a fine milk. Let me assure you, okay? Gonna age like a fine milk. It is funny watching, the Peter Schiffs of the world make these silly arguments, and they can't see that already there are people right now that refuse to sell specific cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, because it has these attributes that without this technology would not exist. People are already doing that. It's already happened. It's been around for 13 years. Over that, people already decide, yes, we want this, even though it's not clear which cryptocurrencies are really going to be the biggest of winners, because it's in the earliest of days of crypto. But we're already seeing it. It is a trust system, and it is volatile, and people do get scared, resulting in volatility. And there's markets are so, even Bitcoin, it's so illiquid, relatively speaking. You still get these big swings, but it's in a world where there's full maturation within this asset class. No, it's not going to stay like that. It's going to be way more boring to be in the world of crypto in the future. It's just going to be part of everyday life. So it's a long way of saying I wanted to share my thoughts on this. It's like, crypto's not going away. You're on the cutting edge of all of this, and it just doesn't make sense to be fearful. So I think that's most of what I wanted to say. I'll wrap up there. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.